Why do you still take lessons if you've been riding for so long?
Hey guys, it's Nikki. So for those of you who don't know me, hi, my name is Nikki. I ride in Canada. I have a horse and then I have a pony who I'm training. I've been riding for, I guess, almost 10 years now, and I've learned a lot of tips and tricks over the years. So one that I thought I'd sit down and share with you guys today is how to get the most out of your riding lessons. Riding is a super duper duper, do we need another duper? I think so. Duper expensive sport. Lessons can range from about $200 a month for one lesson a week upwards. Crazy, right? And I still take lessons. Why? I've gotten that question a lot.
Why do you still take lessons if you've been riding for so long?
Well, with a sport like riding, I think it's always helpful to have someone on the ground, especially someone who's more knowledgeable or more experienced than you, just to get a fresh pair of eyes, or I guess eyes that aren't your own, because it's kind of hard to see your full body when you're the one doing it. I've also found that riding once a week is great. At one point that's all I could afford, but if you really want to improve, I'd recommend taking more than one lesson a week, since I found that with my one lesson a week I'd kind of just be trying to remember stuff from the previous lesson and my progress was pretty slow. But with 2 lessons a week, which is what I have right now, I find that I can move forward without having to take a couple steps backwards to remember what I'd learned. So with that being said, my first tip for getting the most out of your lessons is to arrive early. Let's say you're in a group lesson and you tack up your own horse. If possible, try to arrive at least 15 minutes early or half an hour. I know currently with COVID, some barns have restrictions and you can only arrive a set amount of time ahead of your lessons, or you can't tack up your own horse. But if possible, I would recommend arriving half an hour early or so that way you don't feel rushed. If you feel rushed tacking up, you'll probably not be in calm mindset during your lesson. So that'll affect a couple things. If you're super stressed and get ready and you're rushed, that'll affect how you're feeling. So you'll probably be more nervous or anxious and you won't be thinking as clearly. It'll affect your horse too, since horses read humans' body language really well. And the third thing is you cannot be prepared properly. I know that times when I've had to tack up super fast, maybe I won't do up the bridle properly or other things like that, and then I end up feeling super embarrassed. So arriving early before your lesson starts is a great way to get the most out of your super expensive lessons. A little side note is it also allows you to bond with the horse that you're riding. My next tip, so this is tip number 2, is try to focus and be present in your lesson. You only ride for a couple hours a week maybe, and you do other stuff for the rest of the day. So if possible, try to be present and be in the moment and not let your mind wander. I know that with my jumper, Picasso, as soon as I let my mind wander, he kind of takes advantage of me and he's completely different. So he's been great for that. But just try to focus and stay in the moment. Some tips to help with this is if you're someone like me who has ADHD and is hyperactive or is super anxious, is I found that practicing mindfulness really helps. So when I drive to the barn, I just try to stay calm. I listen to not super upbeat music, but I try to find some like chill, more indie or alternative that aren't too intense, just to get myself nice and calm. You can also do some stretches before you get on. If you find that you tend to have really tense shoulders, or you hunch or grip with your knees while you're in the car if you're not the one driving, or before you get in the cars, you can do some arm circles. Always circle your shoulders backwards to help get your shoulders back, not forwards. Because if you circle them forwards, that'll get you more hunch. So you can do arm circles back to help open up your shoulders, and you can do leg stretches. I find that leg stretches that runners do are really good for helping loosen up your legs too. Another part about focusing and being present, so I guess this is tip 2.5, is make sure you're hydrated and you've eaten. You want to make sure you have enough energy, but don't eat a ton right before your lesson, especially if it's a lot of sitting trot. So don't do that, but make sure that you have been hydrating and eating throughout the day, especially if you have a competition. I know that sometimes people can get really nervous and can't eat, but energy will help your brain and it'll help your body and you'll do your best. Also, try to get sleep before your lesson. Lessons are expensive. It sucks if you don't ride to your best ability because you stayed up too late playing Fortnite or you stayed up too late binge watching my videos. But you just want to make sure that you do everything in your ability to get the most out of your time in the saddle. So my third tip for getting the most out of your lessons is, if possible, especially when you're starting off, try to ride different horses. I find that you can learn something different from every horse that you ride. Some horses need a little more leg to get going. Other horses need you to be more present and to slow them down and to stay calm. So for that reason, if possible, try to ride as many different horses as you can. Also, I guess this is tip 4 that I'm kind of like integrating into here, is be grateful for every horse that you get to ride and for every opportunity that you get, and don't complain. Maybe you get the pony who's always bucking people off or always stopping at jumps, but if you get to ride that pony, that means your coach trusts you and you have something to learn from that pony. Try to stay positive and don't complain. At the end of the day, even if you're unhappy, if you have a bad jump, don't sit around and dwell on it. You're not gonna do as well because you'll be in a negative mindset. So try to stay positive. Think, okay, I had a bad jump. My coach wants me to go again. That means I get another opportunity to practice the skills that I've learned and to move forward. Try not to be super negative and complaining. This brings me to point, I guess we're on 5 now, is if there's other riders in your lesson, watch them, pay close attention to what the coach is saying, but try not to be negative verbally and try to keep your opinions to yourself. Everyone has bad days. Everyone is going through their own personal things in their own life. So if there's another rider in your lesson, let's say if you think that they're weaker than you, try to learn from them and focus on what the coach is saying to them, and try not to be negative and let yourself be negative. Always encourage and support one another too, especially in this sport, which can be super competitive and people can be nasty. Try to be positive. Just do whatever you can to lift each other up. So my next point, which is point number 6, or tip number 6, I don't remember, I've been calling them points or tips, is if possible, try to watch other lessons. I know that with me when I was younger, I would watch the bigger kids and their big group jump lessons, and I would learn about things like the half halt, even if I wasn't ready to learn it yet, just by watching them do it. Or watching less advanced lessons is something that I like doing too. So at my barn a couple months ago, I was doing a practice ride on my horse. I was schooling him and there was a beginner lesson going on, and they were focusing on their posting diagonals, and the coach was really trying to get them to just be relaxed and to feel the way that the horse was moving. So there's a lot of things that may seem super simple that we can forget about. In today's day and age too, you can always watch YouTube to see some different coaches and their different styles as well. I find that every coach has something different to teach you and that you can learn from them. So try to watch videos of different coaches, try to watch how different people take the advice and the feedback from the coach. So my next tip or point, which is number 7, is don't make your coach become a broken record. If your coach is always telling you heels down, heels down, heels down for the entire lesson, then that's not the best way to spend your money, because you could also be telling yourself in your head every time, let's say if you're posting, every time you rise or sit down, you could be telling yourself heels down, heels down, heels down, instead of waiting for your coach to tell you. Riding like that is the difference between someone who is improving and wanting to improve and who is trying, and someone who is just there. So keeping your coach from being a broken record will make your coach more likely to want to keep working with you because they'll get less frustrated. It also shows that you're taking some initiative, and it shows that you're actively listening and focusing to what they're saying, which will go a long way. So my next tip is keep a journal. After my lessons, what I do is I have this notebook and I'll draw out a course of jumps that I did, and I'll write the order that I did it, and then I'll also write my coach's comments. Sometimes what I do is as I'm driving home, or I guess as soon as I get in the car, I'll start recording and I'll make a video of myself saying everything I can remember right away that my coach told me, especially if I don't have someone taking videos of me that day. If I record the advice that I got, then I'll remember more than when I get home or at the next lesson when I try to remember what I worked on the lesson before. I find it super helpful to have 3 key things that I learned or worked on, and to write those on one side, to have a picture of the jump courses or exercises that I did here, and then to just write in any notes. This is also helpful for if you really want to improve. If you wrote down what you had trouble with and what you worked on, then you can also research it, because you'll remember what you had trouble with. You can read articles, you can watch videos, you can read books on it, and just try to improve in your own time. Watching a YouTube video on how to improve your 2-point position costs you nothing, versus having several lessons to try to figure it out does cost you more money. So if you're able to figure some of it out in your own time, then I definitely recommend giving that a try. Another one of my tips is to try to relax. I've been in lessons where oftentimes riders have been super nervous and not wanting to do things that their coach recommends for them. I think it's a great idea to push yourself a bit outside of your comfort zone. If you're super anxious and you're gripping and you're way too nervous to keep going, communicate that with your coach, but try not to let yourself question everything if you know that it's safe and if you trust your coach and your coach knows your abilities. Even if you're uncomfortable, even if you try and you mess up, at least you'll be able to learn from that. Take deep breaths. Something that I find helpful is if I'm coming up to jumps and I'm feeling really nervous, I'll force myself to sing. Not out loud, but I'll move my lips. So like with row, row, row your boat, I'll go because a row, row, row is rhythmic and helps me keep a rhythmic stride. The whispering the song too makes me breathe. I'm someone who's been guilty of holding my breath while I go around jumps, but something like that when you're whispering, it forces you to breathe and get more oxygen, which also helps your brain and will help you do better. Along with keeping a journal and keeping track of things, I'd recommend asking questions. So if you don't understand something in your lesson and it seems appropriate to do so, ask a question. If it doesn't seem like a great time, or if somebody else is riding, don't ask a question. Don't take up their time with the coach. That's another great thing about if you do have questions afterwards and you don't have a chance to ask them and you keep a journal, you can write down your questions and you can research them a bit more, and then you can talk to your coach about it. You could be like, hey, I didn't quite understand this concept from last week. This is what it is. This is what I think it might be after doing some research. Could you clarify this for me, please? That shows initiative. It shows that you're really interested, and it's something that your coach will admire you for doing. So one of my last tips is to not blame the horse. We're the pilot, we're the one steering the horse. Most of the time, if a car gets into an accident, it's not the car's fault, it's the driver's fault. Similar thing with horseback riding, try not to blame your horse. I've heard that 99% of the time it's the rider's fault, not the horse's fault. So own up to your mistakes, but also try not to dwell on them. You made a mistake, it sucks, it's embarrassing. Try to learn from it and move forward. I'm one of those people who will beat myself up when I make a mistake, so I'm also making this video for me, Nikki, and anybody else who's watching this. If you make a mistake, it's okay. You're not perfect. If you were perfect, then you wouldn't be taking lessons. You'd already be at the top of the world, but also there'd be no fun in that. So learn. It's okay. Take a deep breath, shake it off, and try again. Everybody makes mistakes. That's why we're human. Another one of my tips is to dress to impress. So I know that at some barns there's no dress code, but I always find it, I guess, respectful if someone comes into the ring for their lesson wearing breeches. I've had people show up in my lesson in sweatpants, and just looking at that rider, it just looks like they don't necessarily care or they didn't put in the time and effort. So I'd always say dress to impress. If you have long hair like me, I'd recommend putting your hair in at least a ponytail. If you can, put it in a braid. I find that with my hairs back in a ponytail, it can still flop around when I'm jumping and be distracting, and it blocks my coach from seeing the position of my shoulders properly, but if it's a ponytail, because it's so long. So I recommend, if you have long hair, riding with it in a braid to help your coach see your position and so that they can actually focus. I find that hoods also distract from your shoulders. If you're paying the money to be there, you might as well set yourself up so you can get the most out of your money. Breeches also give you better grip with the knee patches too. I'm not saying you have to go out and buy super fancy and expensive breeches, but I'm just saying dress appropriately for the lesson. Don't show up in sandals. I don't know if you've heard the thing, dress for the job you want, not the job that you have. Similar thing with horseback riding, except don't show up to a lesson in a show coat.
So my second last tip is to make sure that you have a coach who you trust and that you're at a place where you feel safe and where all the horses seem happy and healthy. Because as soon as you lose that trust and it's gone,
It makes it a lot more difficult to improve.
last but not least, a great tip is to set goals.
So I don't know if you guys have heard about SMART goals or have done them in school, but basically SMART is an acronym. So it's simple, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-oriented goals. So you're just starting off and you want to be in the Olympics someday. The issue with that goal is it is so broad. Is it simple? Not necessarily. Is it measurable? I'd say so, because you're either at the Olympics or you're not, so you can measure if you've reached it. Is it attainable? Maybe. It takes a lot of money to get a great horse who can qualify for the Olympics, and it takes a lot of money to have the lessons and all the time. Is it realistic? And then is it time-oriented? So that goal isn't specific enough. Let's say you've just been starting off and you want to go over a jump. If you set yourself a goal for about 2 years and you were really specific, so simple, go over a jump. You're not specifying the height. It's not the type of jump. I'd say it's pretty simple. Measurable. You can measure it. You either go over a jump or you don't. I'd say it's fairly attainable. I'd say it's realistic. And time-oriented is if you give yourself a time period. If you guys would like to see me making my goals for the upcoming show season and a video and kind of more of my template on how I make goals, then be sure to comment that down below and I can do a video on making goals. Especially with today being the start of the new year, I think it's a perfect time to set goals, even if it's just a goal like write in your writing journal after every lesson or after almost every lesson, then that's another great goal that you could have. So thanks for watching today's video. If you guys would like to see more videos like how I make my goals or what my plans for the new year are, then make sure to comment that down below. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.